Welcome to the Show Me the Way podcast. I am your host, Andrea Miller, alongside a dear, dear friend, Tammy Thompson, and we are so excited to bring this podcast to you. Show Me the Way podcast is a podcast dedicated to exploring the journeys of those who have faced adversity and found themselves on unexpected paths. We will have meaningful, thoughtful conversations about challenges we have faced and how we discovered and forged new direction. Prepare to be inspired and to uncover your own strength as you listen to relatable and motivating stories. Life has a way of twisting and turning, and we often need a fresh perspective to understand how to navigate. Let's show each other the way. In this episode, recorded during Lucky Week 13 but released for Week 14, we return to hosting inspirational guests following last week's reflection episode. We are thrilled to welcome Nicole Keller, a dynamic leader and motivator whom both Tammy and I met through our previous direct marketing company. Nicole shares her journey beginning with her education and graduate studies, all while navigating life as a mother to three very young children born just 20 months apart. Observing her husband's work schedule and flexibility inspired her to seek a better work-life balance and career direction. Nicole found her niche in connecting with people and sharing products she loves. Her professional journey spans from skincare to clothing and now to a new skincare company that aligns with her personal mission to promote health and wellness. Through years of self-discovery, she has refined her focus to work that supports her health goals and values. This engaging conversation is packed with inspiration, practical insights, and valuable lessons about career pivots, personal growth, and living with intention. It's a must listen for anyone seeking motivation and guidance in building a fulfilling career and life. Welcome back to the Show Me the Way podcast. We are on lucky number 13. I seriously cannot believe we've been going strong for that long. Podcasting is so fun, and it's been an honor to interview so many amazing women so far. And to keep that streak going, I'm happy to introduce today's awesome guest, Nicole Keller. So, Nicole, Tammy, and I met through the direct marketing company we worked with over the past 4 years. We have been fortunate to have a few guests we met through that company, which doesn't surprise me at all because we all loved the community and each other so much. Nicole was a leader, but eventually I recognized how inclusive she was and appreciated her insight and how authentic, genuine, and kind she was. And I found myself gravitating to her at every in-person event. I love how Nicole carries herself and how much she cares about others and what she presents and shares. Nicole is a mom and a wife and definitely an inspirational person to follow. And I'm so happy to welcome Nicole to our show. So, welcome.
Thank you. And lucky 13, I had no idea. That's exciting.
Yes, it is. So, I'm really glad you're on with us. I know we've been talking for a little while and I keep telling people we're talking about pivots. So we keep pivoting and we schedule and we reschedule. So thanks for being flexible, but excited to have you on this.
No, I'm excited to be here.
Good. And I do want to point out that my partner, Tammy, who's usually on this podcast with us, unfortunately had a family situation come up. So she is not on this, but I wanted to keep to this recording. So we're just going to move forward and get Tammy's insight after the fact. So, okay, without further ado, again, I do want to talk about potentially a time that you had to pivot or you were on one path and you had to go a different direction. But before we jump into that, I always ask the guests to tell me a little bit more about themselves. So let's hear a little bit more about you, Nicole.
Okay, great. Well, I am Nicole Keller. I live in Maryland outside the DC area. I've been here since 2001, but I am forever a Jersey girl. Grew up in New Jersey, went to college in Indiana, went to grad school in South Florida. And then recruited. My husband is a recruiter. He owns his own recruiting firm, and he did a very good job recruiting me to Maryland area. So I've been here for, many years now. We have three children. You're probably going to be shocked by this. I think you know this, but when my oldest daughter, when she was 20 months, I had twins.
I
So
didn't
20,
realize how close they
yes,
were.
so 20 months apart, so I had boy girl twins. And what I did go to grad school for was speech therapy. So I was working in the school system. When I had my first, I went part time. And then when I had my twins, I was like, I think I'm retired. So I was home and just with them and enjoying raising them. Three kids under the age of two, so close in age, was a little chaotic, but it's crazy because now we're here and my twins, they're going to be 18 January 2nd. But they're about to be getting all of their college admissions, hearing from their college, their top colleges are coming out soon. So they are really excited. My older daughter goes to a community college around here. So right now, we're just living at home, the five of us, and loving our family life. And my golden doodle, Miles.
Oh,
Golden doodle that's lying on the floor here, praying that he doesn't bark during this episode.
yes, we can't forget our little furry friends. Are they both applying to the same schools or are they thinking about separating?
So here's the funny thing. They applied to some of the same schools. They actually did get their first reply back from the same college, University of Delaware. And I was super excited for them because at least we know they are attending college. But if you ask them in front of them, they'll be like, nope, we do not want to go to the same place. A lot of twins, I know they want to go in the same direction. But, I think because they are boy girl and they just have they have different majors. One likes
Right.
bigger, one likes smaller school. So they just a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences. And
Mhm.
so my son really he ED to Tulane, so that should be we should hear back from them probably in the next 2 weeks, and that's his top choice. And my
Okay.
daughter, she already got into Delaware. That's her second choice, and her top choice is Elon in North Carolina, and that's a little bit of a smaller school, but she's super excited about that one. It's beautiful. It's newer campus. Everything is updated, and she's an education major. He's a business major. So they just have two different paths, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yep, yep.
Let's just hope Parents Weekend doesn't fall on the same weekend and we'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, well, I talked to a friend of mine last week who has twins that are seniors right now. They're both girls, and one of them already accepted and is excited to go to Michigan State, as we're in
Mhm.
Michigan, and the other one really wants to go to the University of Michigan. They are complete competitors. It'll be a divided family, but yeah, I think the two of them are the same. They want to do different things and just experience different things. So that's really great.
Yes.
And I love it because I can relate to everything since I just went through it, but my son's only an hour away, so I won't whine about that when your kids go a little further away from you.
Yes, it's definitely, definitely going to be hard. I mean, if she chooses Delaware, it's only an hour and a half away, but if she chooses North Carolina, it's
Mhm.
4.5, 5.5, depending on traffic, and Tulane, it's got to be a flight away. So
Yes. Well,
it's
good.
see
Yeah,
what
that's
happens. Yes.
that's exciting. Yeah, well, good to hear all about you and your family. I know that you are super close with your kiddos, and so it's wonderful to hear more about them. All right. Well, like I said, generally when we are on this podcast, we have started with a story of where you thought you were on one path and you had to kind of change directions. And I started the whole podcast with my story, as you know, about my son with Duchenne muscular dystrophy and where that took our family. And a lot of the guests have come on and they've come up with a specific story that they wanted to share. Some of the guests have just given us overall advice on what to do when we've needed to pivot. So we don't give our guests a script. We don't tell you exactly what we want you to say. And I've said this a couple of times on the podcast. I've come up with a bunch of different ideas and titles, but I usually end up listening to the person and then kind of altering it. So there's there's no specified set situation for you. We kind of just want to talk and have a casual conversation. Every single person I know has a story to tell. So I just thought I would let you share if there's a time that you had to pivot or a time that you thought you were on one path and it needed to go in a different direction.
Well, I'll extend on why I became a stay-at-home mom versus from my graduate school experience to working as a speech therapist. So I was a speech therapist. I always knew that I love to help people. That was a path that I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I love to help people. And I knew that I love to help others that wanted to be helped. And that could have been so many different directions that I've gone in. My older sister was a speech therapist. I saw her working one day and I was like, wow, this is really a unique experience. She worked with kids who had trauma that happened to them and their lives turned around and she helped them communicate again. And I was so blown away and fascinated by that. So I went into college knowing exactly what I wanted to do from day one. And then I went to grad school for 3 years after that. So when I met my husband, he has his own recruiting firm. All he needs is a computer or a phone and a desk. That's all he needs. So he's able to work from anywhere. He didn't choose to work from home at that point. He wanted to have his own space, but I was like, that's really not fair that you can kind of make your own hours, and I have to go in and be at a certain place and have a job and come home and write reports because I was working in the school system when I came to move here in Maryland. I told him I really don't want to be in the schools, but we knew once we started a family that that probably would be the best direction for me so I can get the perks and the benefits of the school system. So when I had my first, I went part-time, and then when I had my other two, I was like, I got to stop for a little bit. And I was kind of like figuring out, what do I want to do? Do I want to open my own practice? Do I want to have private clients here and there? Do I want to go per diem? My husband can make his own hours. I want to make my own hours. Problem with that was that when you have three kids, there's a lot of moving parts. And I knew that if I was going to work with kids, that it had to be after school hours. I'm like, well, then how am I going to see my own kids? How am I going to hang out with my own kids? A time that I can work with other children if I'm not going to go back to work and in the school day. So it really was a hard decision. I really spent 7 years of my life preparing to have a career as a speech therapist, and I loved what I was doing, but it just wasn't fitting into my routine anymore. I looked at my husband and I said, it's because there are times that he needed to be home and help out with the kids, three under the age of two. It was a lot of help was needed. So he was always able to take off of work or take calls whenever he wanted. And I said, I want a life like yours. How do I have a life like yours? Now, remember, my twins are going to be 18, so this is when they were just born, right? My older one is 19, going to be 20. So many years ago, direct sales didn't exist, right? So or if it did, I didn't know about it, and social media didn't have direct sales on it. Like that was just a new thing. So I said to him, I can talk to anyone. Is there a way that I can go to lunch and make money? Is there a way that I can go to Starbucks and make money? Like, go to the gym and make money, because I knew I was meant for more. I didn't want to just be a mom. I went through grad school. I knew there was a purpose for me, and I'm very driven. I'm very motivated. It's not even about the money. It's just about having something for me and just owning something of my own and calling something of my own and feeling like I have a purpose or a mission here. I had no clue what that looked like, and he's like, "Well, work with me," and I'm like, I have no desire to, not because I didn't want to work with him, but I had no desire to do what he did. He works in technical recruiting. Like, that's kind of boring to me, to be honest. So a friend of mine had told me about, she was in the pharmaceutical sales rep. She still is to this day. And she said to me, I just started using this skincare. And it's funny because we're in a skincare brand now, but it was another
Right.
skincare brand.
Right.
She's like, I just started using the skincare. And, you always say you wish you could make money by just talking to people and having conversations. I found you a way to do that. And I said, come on, there's no way that that could be. So she's like, just try this skincare. And if you like it, talk about it with your friends. She said, and I'm like, okay, I need new skincare. I'm feeling old. My kids are making me look old. Give me whatever you got. And I ordered it. And within 5 days, I felt like a new person. I just felt like I really was transformed in my mindset too. I was rejuvenated. Wow, there's actually something that I'm getting excited about again, not just having my family, raising my kids, taking them to classes. I was like, wait, so you're telling me I can talk about this with people and I can actually get a paycheck from it? And that didn't exist back then. Okay, let me try it. I invited, like, I don't know, 20 something neighbors over, and I think almost every single one of them came. I talked about it and they all bought something because of my excitement. And I'm like, okay, I don't ever need to go back to work. This is really, really cool. I can have a party, I can have a conversation, I could talk to people about a product that I'm fascinated about that changed my skin within 5 days. I'm like, if I know that I feel younger in 5 days and feel good and transformed in 5 days, I have a lot of friends who have kids that could feel this exact feeling that I am. So that's where I pivoted. I said, I can't believe that I spent all this money on grad school to then not even put any time or effort into doing that. So it was hard to adjust for a little bit because I was like feeling that feeling of, am I doing the right thing? Can I always go back to it? Because with speech therapy, you have to keep up. You need to take certain courses and you needed to keep up with it. And I didn't know if I wanted to let it lapse, but I was enjoying it so much. And within 3 months, my husband's like, okay, you need an accountant. Like, you really are doing a really good job. Like, we need to get this worked out here. Yeah, so I pivoted into that whole direct sales path. I was with that company for 7.5 years until until corporate changed. And then I was like, wow, this life of having my own hours, making my own hours, scheduling my own time, making money on my own time, deciding when and where I want to work, how I want it to look. There's something to be said about it. So there was that time corporate was falling apart in that company. And that's when I went to the next company. That's when I met you. And it was with that company for 4 years until, what do you know, things were starting to fall apart again.
Corporate changed. Yep.
Corporate changed. Things change and things shift. And it's funny because I never expected another pivot. I thought that the last company we were in, it was going to be my forever. Like, I'm going to be old and selling leggings for the rest of my life and making people feel so super comfy and confident and good in their
Mhm.
own skin. But you realize in life, there's always a pivot. Nothing is meant to stay forever. Nothing is meant to last forever. And I remember someone saying to me, or a few people said to me, "Are you really going to go to another company?" And I'm thinking, gosh, how many people I see out there on Facebook who, or even my husband who helps people with jobs every single day. Like, people shift and people change in the corporate world every single day. Or maybe there's a whole infrastructure change or corporate change for their company. And after a year, they go to another company. So I think it's the same for the direct sales space. And so now here we are on to our third one, which I feel way more aligned than ever. So I've pivoted in the direction of having a graduate degree to working my own hours to realizing that there's more out there to now realizing that it's not that you just want to find some place to align with, a company to align with to sell because the product makes you feel good, but it's like, what product is it? I went back to like my mission and I went back to my purpose. And I feel for the first time in all these years, that's all come together. It's come full circle. And that purpose is my mission in life has always been to help others heal, help others find ingredients and products that are really healthy and good for them because I've went through such a transformation myself. I've gone through a whole health change and had to cut out a lot of ingredients and have to look really deeply at ingredients. And so knowing that the company that we're aligned with now is that kind of company where it's really, safe and it's proven and it's, European standards and, all the things that I really was looking for. I feel like I'm just in a better place today than I was years ago.
So much in my mind listening to you talk. I loved all of that. But yeah, this is exactly what this podcast is all about, sharing your story. And there's a couple of things. So, first, many of us have done pivots like that from corporate to something else. And a lot of times it has to do with our family, our children, something happened in our life that we didn't expect, and so we had to come up with something different. So it's actually so inspirational to hear how creative people are, and I'm just going to say it, especially women. Every time you talk to women, they have so many things that they do, all these different hats that they wear. I was actually at a networking event this morning and some of them hadn't met each other, so we took a lot of time going through what we do, who we are, our families, all of that. And every single one of them says, "Well, I do this and I also do that and I also got involved in this." And so either we're really good at multitasking or we are all kind of looking for our purpose or how everything can fit together. And I think it's so easy to see. I tell you this all the time, just watching you, you can see how aligned you are. But also, everything that you've done, all of it was a stepping stone. All
Mhm,
of it was a purpose to get you to where you are today. Even all that grad school work, it made you the person you are and the ambitious person you are and the intelligent person you are. I just strongly believe that things happen for a reason. So I think all of these steps, it just really sounds like it all was for another purpose. And even doing these different direct marketing companies, all of that was to get closer to where you are today. And yes, Nicole mentions a third company that she got involved with after the corporate changes with the last company we were with. And another testament to Nicole, I do believe when you know, like, and trust somebody, I strongly believe that you do want to follow what they're doing and not necessarily just jump on board because you know they're successful. But if you know somebody and you trust them and they're using a product and you're seeing results and you want those results too, or you just trust the wonderful things that this person is saying, you find yourself kind of curious and maybe wanting to go in that direction too. So fortunately for me, I am again with Nicole and closer to her team than I was previously. So Nicole's an awesome leader, and you hear from her all the time. I'm excited to say we're still partners. It's very different, but it's a great company that I'm learning more about every single day. Thanks for sharing all of that. I do want to hear a little bit more about, as we've talked about this many times before, about how what you're doing now aligns with what you needed in your life. And I think you're so good at being authentic and sharing all of that. I would love our listeners to hear a little bit more about how this company does finally really touch closer to what your overall life purpose is.
Sure. Thank you for that. My whole life, I have gone through ups and downs of trying to figure out, like, I don't know, maybe I had a little heartburn, or at times like my fingers would blow up and swell up, or at other times I'd have foggy brain. When I was a child, I would go to the doctor and they'd always say I was normal. Everything was normal. And as I aged, every time I went to the doctor, they said, "Are you under stress? Are you anxious?" I didn't even know what that meant at the time. Just always just kind of lived with my symptoms and just thinking, okay, I guess, I don't know, I'm just must be anxious. All these little things, random things would always happen. And, time went on. And then when I was in grad school, my sister said to me, "Nicole, all you do is eat carbs and sugar." And, I have a friend who just went to I don't even know what they called it back then. I know now they call it like functional doctors, holistic doctors, who did a test to see what food she can eat. And she was like, "He's in the city, I think you should go to him," in New York City, because I'm from New Jersey. So I said, "Okay." So I was living in Florida at the time, and I said, "Well, let me get home. Next break, I'll go and I'll see this doctor." And he told me that I was not allergic, but I was sensitive to yeast and wheat and rye and corn and dairy and sugar. And I mean, the list went on and on. I'm like, what in the world do I eat? Like, this is crazy. So I was like, oh, well, maybe all those things, because he's always said, "You are what you eat." And I'm like, I wonder if all the things that I've always dealt with was food related. But I didn't know, but my parents also had a son who passed away before I was born, and he died when he was 2. So I think I always attributed to anything that I went through. I'm like, "Oh, I hope I don't have what he had." It was became a hypochondriac from that.
Right.
Is it food related? Is it this related? And I started now having like pains in my body, even cutting out like a lot of the ingredients. And I had a foggier brain, and I started going to different doctors and PT, more specialists than any other type of regular doctor, because I felt like every regular doctor would just band-aid it and say, "Oh, here, take this medicine. Oh, here, take that." But they never could figure out what was wrong with me. Then fast forward, and I had breast implants put in when my kids were very young. And 6 months later, I didn't even realize, because I've always had stuff going on in my body. I didn't even realize that, because I remember calculating it back, like 6 months later, all that pain, it started exacerbating even more. I was just attributing it to like maybe lack of sleep, maybe something with the kids, aging, all these things. I lived with a bunch of stuff for 13 years, and I was living with this while I was through all these companies. But not only that was I living with it, but I just started recognizing everyone around me, including my children, like anxiety. I'm like, why is anxiety rampant? Why is ADHD rampant? Why is, what's happening? Is it the environment? Is it the cell phones? Is it the food? I just kept thinking about all of that. I got really, really sick to the point that I wound up getting my implants taken out. But before I got my implants taken out, I went to a doctor a functional genetic nutritionist, who told me I had mold and toxins and all this stuff in my body, and what my genetics were like. And I wound up not it because the first doctor years ago told me I couldn't have wheat and yeast and rye and corn, but she said I couldn't do gluten and dairy and corn and soy and egg. So I've been living that life for almost 3 years now. But anyway, I did all of these detoxes and took my implants out, and I was getting so much better. I was, for all these years, I was wondering, like, what is going on? What's causing my issues? What's causing this person issues? And then as we started aging, everyone's got stuff, everyone's got something. What's happening? What's happening to our environment? What's happening to our food? So as I started detoxing and then removing my implants, I'm a different person. Pains I even had as a child went away when I started. And I wonder if I had mold from birth and mold from the entire time, or toxins the entire time I didn't even know about. So getting back to this company that we're a part of, it really hit home for me because I don't trust a lot of things made in this country. I'm not the biggest fan of, just band-aiding a symptom. I also don't trust the FDA. And I feel like Europe has such different standards with everything, with their food, even with the skincare that we have. And when we have internals, all of that, it's like it's regulated so differently there. They ban over 4,000 ingredients more than they ban them here. If I'm going to work with another company, and I feel so much better in my own skin because of all of the doctors or the detoxes or the food that I eat. If I feel so much better, I really want to work and stand behind a company that really believes that what we put in our body could really impact us. We have those internals that help with the gut and toxins and inflammation. And we have the skincare that it's like they say, what you put on your body can get absorbed into your skin. So they don't use water as a first ingredient. They use hydroxytyrosol. So they get rid of the water because they don't want yeast and bacteria and mold to be in our skin or in our body. So it just really fully aligns with me as a brand. And I feel so confident and comfortable sharing it. And the best part about it is that they're not new. They've been around for 20 years in Europe before they even made it to the US. So that stood out for me even more because they've been successful. They're publicly traded. They're already in magazines. They're already well known and spoken about. And people have been so impacted by it. So it really feels good to share something that I fully stand behind. It's not just like I love a product. I
Right.
love the product because of how it's created, how it's made, and how many people it's helped for the
No,
health
I
reason.
think it's wonderful that you shared all of that. You can tell you're extremely passionate and they've been around for 20 years. There's proven facts here that show that putting something cleaner on your body makes a big difference. So it's really great to be able to share things like that and to feel confident with that kind of a background. But what it really does is also, there's a couple things. First of all, you mentioned earlier when you go to another company, sometimes there's judgment. Judgment just gets me all the time because as I've learned as I get older, everybody has been through something and you have no idea what they're going through or what is on their mind or what's on their heart. And it's so easy to judge, but it's just terrible to do that. When I was in the corporate world, I had a lot of jobs. My husband was like, "You keep trying for new jobs. It's like you are leasing a car. Every 2 to 3 years, you want something new." But I think that's good. I think it's a sign of ambition. I never just left without being responsible and finding something else. But each one taught me something new. Each one made me the person that I am today. And people, even all the time in corporate, especially now, people leave and go to other jobs. So it's really hard to judge somebody if they make some different decisions. But then they learn something new and they take what they learned from the previous company and they bring it to the next. And again, if someone knows, likes, and trusts you, then your real friends, your authentic people, they're going to follow you and say, Cool, what is she doing now? I support her." And I think now that you've found this truly aligned company, that gives you even more cred, right? Like
Yeah.
people can say, wow, like she's really connected with this. And the third thing I wanted to say was in listening to you, it gives us all hope that if we haven't found our purpose or if we haven't found the place where we feel truly aligned, we still can. There's still something out there. Or, like I said, everything we do is helping us learn and get closer to maybe that path that we are destined to be on. So it's very hopeful to me that there's something out there that maybe I don't feel completely connected with, but I will eventually, or I'm going to find that purpose. It's out there for us all. So I love that. It's
Yeah.
very hopeful.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Well,
Generally, I say, what are some things you could give to listeners? You're giving us some of that, but I guess going back to the original pivot, understanding that you needed to find something that was more in line with you, starting with, can I make money at lunch? And then ending with, if I'm concerned about my health and I see change by following a cleaner diet and a cleaner situation, now I've got a company that aligns with that. All the steps that you've taken, are there some pieces of advice that you would want to give to our listeners through all the things that you've learned?
I think you have to not listen to others. I think that's the biggest problem that a lot of people have is they ask people their opinion, and when they ask others their opinion, they give They're given the opinion from others of what they feel, and it's not truly how you feel. And I think everyone has to take a step back and be like, well, what do I want? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want to do? And how could what I'm doing help me and help others? Because I think that's why a lot of people fail when they first start one of these companies, because they get so caught up in the fact that people are like, "You're doing that? That's what you're doing?" And then they're like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing that." And I think that if people can just listen to their own gut, I know that's hard to say for a lot of people, but I've been doing that, and what feels right to you. If it feels right to you, then that's the path that you should take. But definitely don't ask other people their opinion, because they're not living your life. They're not in your shoes, they're not in your head, and I think that's what has helped. The only opinion I've ever taken was through my husband, and even then, there are times that I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, thank you for that, but I'm gonna do this."
I'm not going to follow it, but thank you.
But for the most part, I think because he's lived this kind of life, that entrepreneurial life, ever since I've known him, it's great to get advice from people who are living this similar path. So I think that would be number one, listen to your gut. Number two, if you are going to talk to people who are in that same type of path that you want to take, and ask them advice. But don't just go to your friends and family and say, "What do you think?" Because you're going to be swayed away
Mhm.
from what is probably meant for you.
Yes, I think that's really good advice. A lot of our stories so far, we've had some similar understanding and some similar inspirations. It's been wonderful, but I don't think anyone's really said what you just said. And I think that is so powerful. Two things. One, I had a friend join me in this skincare business, and she asked me the other day, do you ever get worried about posting things on Facebook or on social media because you were with another company? And I thought to myself, I don't care. I mean, I'm just sharing products that I love. If that's going to make someone no longer want to speak with me, then there's a deeper problem there. And we probably shouldn't be friends anyway. So
Right.
I just said, no, if I want to do it, I'm going to put it out there. And if people aren't happy with it, they can follow something else, or they could say something to me if they wanted to. But I just, at this point in my life, I don't care. If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. So I love that. But then also it's really good advice. You can relate to this. My son is 18, and it's just a very interesting time of life as a parent and with your children, because they're adults and you want to continue to guide them and continue to be their parent. But then you're also thinking, well, I've shown them a lot so far, and they become this person, and I almost have to step back and let them figure some things out now. And you don't want to tell them you shouldn't do this and don't go into that major and don't do that. I don't want to be that kind of person, but I also want to be able to give advice based on my experience. So I like how you said that. Like, don't ask people their opinions. You do what feels good to you, what you feel in your gut, but ask advice from someone that's got experience. And then once if you're that person and you're getting asked for advice, then understand that's what they're doing. You can give them your thoughts. And if they don't follow, they don't follow. But you can say what you think. Don't have to get upset with them if they don't follow. Just understand that you're giving them advice. So I think that was a really good piece of advice and inspiration for our listeners for sure. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I do think you and I could probably talk for a lot longer.
I'm like, as you're
Um,
saying that, I'm like, I have so many more thoughts in my
I know. Well, I'll have you on again.
head.
I I think that it's just really doing this podcast has been so interesting to me because I don't really write down what I'm going to say or what I'm going to ask. But as people talk, it's almost like I create this little list in my head. I have these little clouds floating around telling me what we're going to focus on. And so I could keep going too. But I think it was wonderful to hear. I think a lot of people can probably relate to something changed in their family and they needed to come up with a different way to work. I really appreciate how you spoke with your husband about it instead of just wishing but never being truthful with your partner about what you wanted to do. And instead of having animosity because he got to create his own schedule, you said, how can I do it? So taking ownership as a busy mom, I don't know how you functioned with those three little ones. I give you a lot of credit for that. And look, you've gotten them all to almost 18 and the others older than that. So Good job, mom. Wow.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think you touched on exactly what we want to do with this Show Me the Way podcast. Just learn about a time in your life where you had to make a change. And then I appreciated you going into where that change led you. So thank you for sharing all of that.
You're
Do you have
welcome. Thanks for telling
anything
me.
else that you think our listeners need to hear?
No, the only thought that I was gonna say before was that, and you touched on it a little bit before, is that I went to school, I knew exactly what I wanted to be, and I studied speech therapy in college, I went to grad school, but I think it's so great because now in our lives, with the amount of positions or jobs or marketing or technology or social media, with the amount of things that people can do, there's always a path for someone. And I feel like so many people get stuck on, oh, well, this is what I studied and this is what I'm
Mhm.
doing. And I think that it's so great that just because you thought you were going to be on one path doesn't mean that there's nothing out there that is meant for you or even better. That's what I tell my kids. I say, listen, I spent a lot of money and I was in a lot of debt for one thing, but look at me and I've changed, I pivoted. And even if they saw me do it 3 different times with 3 different companies, it's still, I'm fulfilling a passion of mine. And I hope that I've given them some motivation or inspiration that they could, if they're not happy with what they do study and what they do, that doesn't mean that your life is over. It just means that, there's always something out there for you.
I love that. I really do wish we could go talk to a group of college kids and try to get them to understand this.
Right?
Unfortunately, at that time of your life, you may not be ready to hear all of this, but I wish somebody would have told me that back when I was 18, 19, 20. What I know now, I wish you could just go back and tell these kids. But again,
Yeah.
we're not necessarily ready to hear all of it then. Sometimes we have to go through life experiences till we fully understand that. But
100%. Yes.
yes, but that's wonderful. I'm gonna have my son listen to this episode. They've been very supportive, but I think I probably have to press play in front of him for him to listen, but this would be great for him to hear, and, they're making big decisions at age 18, and it's like, I bet you in 10, 15, 20 years, your life may be different than you expect, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for being on. Again, I'm sorry that Tammy wasn't able to join us, but she's here in spirit. And I know that you know her as well. So hopefully we can have you on another time when she's available. I'm hoping this podcast really continues to keep growing and going. So you never know. You might be back to share one of your other stories.
Well, I hope so, 'cause I miss you, Tammy.
I'm so glad that we still have a partnership and we're still
Me
working
too.
together in a new business because it's so great to be connected and to learn from you every day. So thank you. And yeah, we'll definitely put this out there for all these other aspiring entrepreneurs to learn from. So thanks so much for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us for the Show Me the Way podcast. We truly appreciate you tuning in to today's episode about overcoming adversity and finding your path. We hope it brought you new insights, empowered you with perspective, and inspired you to find joy in your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who could use a little motivation. Until next time, keep seeking the light and showing the way.